Motivation is a strange thing. Some days it feels like fire. Other days it feels like fog. We all want more of it, yet most of us don't understand how it actually works. And the truth is, motivation isn't a single force. It's two different engines that push us in two different ways. One comes from the outside. One comes from within. And the balance between them shapes nearly everything we do. Our habits, our goals, our careers, our happiness, and even our identity. In this video, we're going to take motivation apart. Piece by piece, we'll explore why you sometimes love doing things without being told, and why tasks tied to rewards often feel heavier, not lighter. We'll look at a psychological paradox that explains why paying someone to do something they enjoy can make them enjoy it less. And we'll uncover how to build a kind of motivation that doesn't disappear when pressure fades. This is Motivation Explained. Intrinsic versus extrinsic. Let's begin. Most people believe motivation is a simple switch. You either have it or you don't. You wake up full of energy, or you stare at the ceiling and wonder why even making coffee feels like climbing a small mountain. But here's a strange thought. Why is it that you can spend 3 hours doing something no one told you to do, yet struggle to spend 15 minutes on something you're actually responsible for? Why can you immerse yourself in a hobby for hours, but feel drained by tasks that ironically bring you money, praise, or recognition? The reason is surprisingly simple, and at the same time incredibly counterintuitive. Not all motivation is created equal. In fact, there are two very different engines powering human behavior. And depending on which engine you're running on, your experience of effort, joy, and energy can change completely. So today, let's explain motivation. Intrinsic versus extrinsic, how they work, why they sometimes backfire, and how you can use both kinds of motivation more intelligently. And along the way, we'll uncover why rewards sometimes destroy passion, why children who love drawing stop drawing the moment you pay them, and why adults often lose interest in things they once enjoyed. Let's start with the basics. What is motivation? At its core, motivation is the psychological force that pulls you toward action. It's the invisible hand behind every decision to stand up, move forward, or put effort into something. You feel hungry, so you eat. You feel curious, so you explore. You feel pressured by a deadline, so you work. But if we zoom in a little closer, we discover that this force comes from two very different sources. The first source is intrinsic motivation. This is the purest kind of drive. Intrinsic motivation happens when the activity itself is rewarding. You do it because you genuinely enjoy it, or because it satisfies a personal interest, curiosity, or internal value. No prize, no punishment, no one watching over your shoulder. You do it because something inside you lights up. Think of drawing just because you love the feeling of creating something out of nothing. Think of reading a book not because your teacher told you to, but because the story pulls you in. Think of playing guitar alone in your room because it calms your mind. With intrinsic motivation, the activity is the reward. Effort feels lighter. Time feels different. Progress feels personal. And most importantly, you feel in control. Now, on the other side, we have extrinsic motivation. This is the drive that comes from outside. You act because of a reward or because you want to avoid a consequence. Getting a paycheck, avoiding a penalty, earning a grade, seeking praise, trying not to disappoint someone. Here, the activity is not necessarily enjoyable on its own. You might not love filling spreadsheets, but you love receiving your salary. You might not enjoy cleaning your room, but you enjoy avoiding the anger of your parents. Extrinsic motivation is deeply practical. It keeps society's functioning, deadlines moving, and responsibilities fulfilled. Both types of motivation are useful. Both exist in every human life, and both can work beautifully together, or clash in ways that ruin your energy more than you realize. To understand how we need to explore one of the strangest psychological discoveries ever made. It's called the over-justification effect, and it reveals a paradox. Sometimes the moment you reward someone for something they already enjoy, they stop enjoying it. Take this famous experiment. A group of children loved drawing. They drew spontaneously every day. Researchers came in and offered them a reward. If you draw, we'll give you a certificate. At first, the children were excited. More drawing plus a reward perfect. But here's the twist. After a while, when the rewards stopped, something odd happened. The exact same children stopped drawing. Not just a little, their interest collapsed. They lost the joy they originally had. What happened? When the reward appeared, their brains quietly rewrote the story. Instead of I draw because I enjoy drawing, the narrative shifted to I draw because I get rewarded. The intrinsic motivation was overwritten by an external reason. And once the reward disappeared, the motivation vanished with it. This, in essence, is the overjustification effect. When external rewards become the main reason for doing something, internal joy fades. And this phenomenon doesn't just happen to children. Adults experience it constantly. A blogger who once wrote for fun loses passion after they start earning from sponsorships. A hobbyist photographer becomes stressed when clients enter the picture. Employees who once enjoyed problem solving start dragging their feet when it becomes tied solely to performance bonuses. Rewards are powerful, but dangerously so. Used incorrectly, they can kill the very thing they were meant to encourage. So if intrinsic motivation is so precious, why do we rely so heavily on extrinsic systems? Why do schools, companies, and even families use rewards and punishments as the main engine of action? Because extrinsic motivation works fast. It's predictable, it's scalable. And for many things in life, it's absolutely necessary. Without salaries, many companies would collapse. Without grades, teachers wouldn't know who needs help. Without rules and consequences, chaos would spread quickly. Extrinsic motivation keeps the world organized. Intrinsic motivation makes the world meaningful. And the real challenge is balancing the two. Let's look at why intrinsic motivation tends to feel stronger and more sustainable. When you're intrinsically motivated, you feel autonomy. You feel ownership. You feel a sense of competence mastery and personal growth. Time passes differently because your attention flows naturally. The activity feels connected to your identity. Intrinsic motivation creates creativity. It produces deep learning, long-term engagement, and emotional satisfaction. It is renewable, self-reinforcing, and doesn't depend on approval or fear. And yet, if we relied only on intrinsic motivation, society would fall apart. You can't rely purely on enjoyment to pay your taxes, finish your work, or study for an exam. Extrinsic motivation provides structure, accountability, and a reason to start things that aren't immediately pleasurable. Think of going to the gym. You might start because your doctor warned you. That's extrinsic motivation. But after a few weeks, you start noticing changes in your body. You feel stronger, more confident, more alive. Suddenly, you're not going because your doctor told you to. You're going because you genuinely want to. Extrinsic motivation got you started. Intrinsic motivation keeps you going. This transition moving from external pressure to internal satisfaction is one of the most powerful psychological shifts a person can experience. So the real question becomes, how do you design your life in a way that uses extrinsic motivation intelligently, while cultivating intrinsic motivation whenever possible? Let's break this down. To increase intrinsic motivation, connect the task to something personally meaningful. If you're learning a new skill, link it to curiosity or identity. Tell yourself, I'm doing this because I want to become the kind of person who understands this. Break large, intimidating tasks into smaller, satisfying steps. Small progress creates its own sense of reward. Turn the task into a challenge. Gamify it. Try to beat your own record. Humans naturally respond to challenge with energy and focus. And most importantly, search for purpose. Ask, why does this matter to me? When your brain finds a reason, even a small one, motivation multiplies. But extrinsic motivation can also be used wisely. Set rewards for milestones rather than for the activity itself. Use deadlines to create urgency. Use accountability partners to maintain consistency. Use small consequences to prevent procrastination. Extrinsic motivation should get things moving, not replace internal meaning, but support it. We can see this balance clearly in a simple story. Imagine someone who starts running because their doctor recommends it. They hate the idea at first. They run slowly. They struggle. They only do it to avoid bad news during the next checkup. But after a few weeks, they begin to notice something. They feel lighter. Their mind feels clearer. Their sleep improves. They experience a small but powerful spark of pride each time they finish a run. Eventually, something interesting happens. They no longer need the doctor's warning to keep running. They run because they enjoy how it makes them feel. They run because the activity itself has become meaningful. Extrinsic motivation lit the first flame. Intrinsic motivation became the fire. The most successful people in any field understand this dynamic intuitively. They start with external obligations, but they eventually find internal reasons to continue. This is why passion alone is not enough. And discipline without meaning burns out quickly. You need both engines aligned and working together. At the end of this exploration, the question you should ask yourself is simple. Which type of motivation is driving you right now? Are you acting because you enjoy the activity, because you value progress, because you're curious, or because you feel pressure, fear obligation, or the lure of a reward? Neither type is good or bad on its own. They simply operate differently with different strengths and weaknesses. Intrinsic motivation creates passion. Extrinsic motivation creates structure. And the most powerful form of motivation is when the two are balanced. When external incentives get you started and internal meaning keeps you going. So as you move forward in your life, ask yourself this. What would happen if you shifted just 10% of your motivations from external to internal? What if you stopped asking, what do I get if I finish this, and started asking, how does doing this change who I become? You might discover that motivation was never the problem. It was just a matter of understanding which engine you were running on. And once you choose the right engine, everything becomes lighter. Motivation doesn't appear out of nowhere. It's built, shaped, cultivated. It shifts depending on the story you tell yourself and the meaning you attach to what you do. Sometimes you'll need external structure. Sometimes you'll need internal purpose. And the art of living well is learning when to use which. So the next time you're working on something difficult, pause for a moment. Ask yourself, what's driving me right now? Is it pressure or passion? And then ask the deeper question. What kind of person do I become by doing this? Because when your reasons come from within, effort becomes lighter. Progress becomes natural. And motivation stops being something you wait for. It becomes something you create. If you enjoyed this explanation and want to explore more ideas about how the mind works, feel free to stay for the next video. And if you want more topics like this, let me know what you'd like to hear explained next. Thanks for watching, and until next time, stay curious.